Hi, Tobias. Welcome to the World Vegan Travel Podcast.
Thanks for having me, Brady.
I am so excited to have you on to talk about an area of the world that I think many non-Europeans don't know that much about, which is a part of Belgium. And it's a place that you have made your home. Before we get into all of that, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do in the vegan world, the animal protection space?
Yeah, I am almost 51 years old and I have a career behind me of about 25 years in animal activism. I started with founding and running for 15 years a vegan organization in Belgium. Then I left that. In 2014, I went to travel the world giving talks and trainings. That's something I still do. I co-founded ProVeg International. We can get into that if you want, which is a big NGO in this space. I also wrote a book called How to Create a Vegan World, which is a book on strategy and communication to achieve the goal of a vegan world. And together with my girlfriend, I also run a small B&B and animal sanctuary. And right now I'm writing a novel, been working on that for quite a long time, a novel that also has animal rights topics and other philosophical topics woven into it.
You've done so much. I wouldn't say that's it. You've done so much in your career, and thank you so much for doing this amazing work. And definitely the work that you kind of do, it seems to be, please correct me if I'm wrong, it's really kind of big picture thinking. It's really trying to work out a way in which we might create a vegan world and how we could be as effective as we can be. You know, it requires a lot of work to get people on board. I have met you once, and it was really connected with the work that you were doing with ProVeg and Melanie Joy and Sebastian Joy. I think many listeners will know about Melanie Joy because she sort of coined the term carnism, and she's written many amazing books, which I'm sure many people have heard of. But you've kind of collaborated with her and her husband to create ProVeg, which is kind of a big deal in Europe. What is the work that they're doing?
Yeah, ProVeg is actually, I would say, one of the biggest vegan organization in the world. It's a vegan educational organization. We are between 150 and 200 staff worldwide. We're active in 10 countries, not just Europe, but we're also in the US, actually, a small presence. We're in China, we're in South Africa, we're in Malaysia, and we are all over Europe. And the work is aimed at generating attention for the vegan cause, of course. And we have a mission to, as an intermediary goal, which we call 50 by 40, which means a 50% reduction in the production of animal and the consumption of animal products by 2040. Very ambitious goal. We aim, or our work is directed to all levels, from consumer up to the United Nations level, and everything in between. So that means politics, both global and local. It means business and innovation. It means the consumer. It means academia. It means health professionals, and so on. And I myself, I'm in the international board, and I'm also president of the ProVeg organization in the Netherlands, which is the country just north of me. So that is my involvement. I think it's a very accessible organization that tries to be or have a very professional image, and that tries to be also pragmatic. And pragmatism is also the topic of my book. Pragmatism is about doing things that can work and that are sensible in the context of the time that we are in. So therefore, we may ask, for instance, in certain circumstances for reduction of animal products, even though ideally, of course, we are in favor of the complete elimination of animal products. But that is what pragmatism is about.
Amazing, incredible. I corresponded with Melanie a few years ago now because I really wanted to get, not just me, some of my activist friends when I was living in Thailand. We wanted to get some of you over to Thailand to do some of your 2-day talks, workshops, I guess, to try to sort of kickstart the animal activism community in Thailand. And unfortunately, it never eventuated, which is, of course, is absolutely fine. And I'm happy to report that there are some amazing things going on in Thailand now. But it's just so exciting that you're trying to sort of leverage and help people with skills so that they can feel more empowered to do activism wherever they are in the world. It's so amazing.
And my book is currently being translated into Thai also. Maybe that can also help create some pragmatic thinking in the movement over there.
Amazing. That's incredible. And your book has been translated many times already.
Yeah, 12 or 13 languages at the moment.
Incredible. Amazing. I really recommend anyone that is listening to this podcast to go and check out what ProVeg are doing. I mean, it's an incredible model that is being replicated all over the world and is just super, super, super awesome. And to see you grow from this very small organization, which is when I first learned about you, to now having 150 staff is, I mean, a testament to, you know, how well you've kind of guided this ship, you and the team and all of the staff over there. So well done. So we're going to talk about Belgium, specifically Flanders. Belgium is a country that I know a little bit about. I lived in the north of France in my 20s for about a year. And as a result, Belgium was very close by, and I did many excursions to Belgium, and I thought it was very, very nice. So I know a little bit, but I also know that most people, if they go to Belgium as international travelers and non-Europeans, they go to Brussels and see the big square and the mannequin piece, and they might go to Bruges as well because it is just absolutely beautiful. I would say that Belgium isn't really a huge tourism destination outside of those two places, but that does not mean it doesn't have a lot to offer everyone and a lot to offer certain segments of the population specifically. So why don't you sort of explain a little bit about the geography of Belgium and this whole two-language things, and explain the scenery and what we might expect to see there?
Belgium is in the heart of Europe, just north of France, as you said, and below the Netherlands and to the left of Germany. And so we're a tiny country of 11 million people, and one of the most densely populated countries in the world, actually, in terms of country averages. So that's why you will not find the biggest nature areas here, because it's quite densely populated. But we are, I think, pretty good in terms of historic cities. You named already a few. There's Brussels and there's Bruges, but also, for instance, Antwerp and the city where I'm from, Ghent, are really quite nice to visit. The good thing is that you cannot travel further in Belgium than 2.5 hours before being out of the country. So it's like a small state in the US. And that means that you can visit a lot in a short time. I think that's the interesting part of it. In terms of the culture, yeah, you said it's indeed two parts. So the northern part is called Flanders, and the southern part is Wallonia. In the northern part, we speak Dutch. In the southern part, people speak French. The political situation is so complicated that most Belgians wouldn't be able to really explain how it works to you. So it is a very complicated country, politically speaking. It is worth visiting, and a lot of Americans that I talk to, when they mention Belgium, they will say like, oh yeah, we passed through it. So they passed through all the way to Paris or on the way to London or whatever. They went through it, and they maybe stopped for a day in Brussels, but that's it. I think it definitely deserves more than that, especially if you're into historic cities, which are pretty authentic, I would say. Dense in terms of, easy to visit, walkable, and authentic. And Bruges, which you mentioned, is actually the least authentic of these ones. A lot of people go to Bruges, but it has more the feeling of walking inside a museum. It's not that authentic. And I think Ghent, I mean, the Bruges people would be angry at me for saying this, but Ghent and Antwerp are more genuine as cities, and therefore I think really worth visiting. We have a coastline also, but it's not the most amazing coast, I would say. So other countries would do better with that. And in the southern part, we have hills, but up to 700 meters. So no mountains or anything, but hills. We are, where I live, is on that linguistic border between the north and the south, like in the center, vertically speaking. Yeah.
That's so interesting. And Tobias, you decided that you were going to create an accommodation where people could stay. How did that come to pass?
We were originally from Ghent, one of the cities that I mentioned. We've lived there all of our lives. We've been animal lovers for a long time, and my girlfriend especially likes to work hands-on with animals. And we didn't have the room for that in the city, obviously. So we moved to the countryside, and we have a domain, which in Belgium is really big, but in American terms, it's not that big, but it's 2.5 hectares. I don't know, you have to translate that to
Wow.
acres. 2.5 hectares, it's forest, and we have a mini sanctuary on that property. My girlfriend especially takes care of chickens. She's in contact with a couple of factory farm workers who bring the sick and the injured chickens to her, and my girlfriend actually runs a kind of chicken hospital. We had on the property, we had an old kind of like cabin, and we kind of completely restored that. And that's now a very cozy place to stay for people, which is a bed and breakfast. Without the breakfast, we don't offer food, but they have a kitchen. And that's doing pretty well. And like these months, it's fully booked all the time. So you have to look a bit in advance. The cabin is the income model for the sanctuary. A lot of sanctuaries have a lot of problems finding their income because these animals cost a lot in terms of food and medical costs, etc. And so we don't have to do too much in raising gifts and donations, but we can get by on the income from the cabin. And so people who stay here, they know that the money that they pay for the lodging is used to help the animals. Right now, there's about 80 chickens. There's turkeys. There's 2 pigs. We have our own 4 dogs and 3 cats. There's quite a number of animals running around here.
Yeah, I'm have your website open on another tab, and it just seems like, well, cozy is exactly the right way to describe it. And it feels like it's really in the forest as well. I imagine you feel like you're really in nature when you're there.
Yeah, absolutely. You're really in between the trees and the animals, and it's very peaceful. So the website is Feathery Forest, or that's the name of the sanctuary. Feathery from the chickens, and the forest for the trees. So Feathery Forest. And yeah, it's a nice area. It's also touristic. We have also some hills here, and this area is world famous for a bicycle course, the Tour de Flanders. Some bicycle enthusiasts may know it. So there's world famous little hills that the cyclists get up on, sometimes in the rain, it's slippery. So that's what it's famous for. And a lot of people come here to bicycle. We also guide our guests towards restaurants that have vegan options in the area. So there's no absolutely real, entirely vegan restaurants, but there's a good choice of restaurants that have vegan options. Yeah.
That's surprising to me. Generally, like countryside, France and other countries close by, it's not especially vegan friendly. So that is really, really nice. What has been the feedback that you get from the guests that stay with you?
They're really always enthusiastic. We have never had a complaint in the 3 years that we're open now. We do have a lot of people who are vegetarian or vegan or close to it. That is because that's where we advertise in those circles. We find it very comfortable to have guests who appreciate what we're doing and who appreciate the animals. And sometimes we have guests who are not into that and who just come for the forest and the cozy cabin, and they don't have anything with animals. And then we hope to, with the introduction to the animals, we hope to enrich the information that they have by telling about the animals. But basically, a lot of people are already familiar or already vegetarian, vegan, which is also good because we do ask them to not eat fish or meat on our property. I mean, when they go out to eat, they can eat whatever they want. They don't have to be vegan while they're here, but they have to eat vegetarian, at least in the cabin. So they're not allowed to bring animal meat or fish in the cabin. But yeah, the feedback that we get is really great. When you're inside the cabin, you can see the animals around you. You can see the chickens and the pigs passing by the window. There's also a cat that is visiting that really loves to be inside, and it's hard to keep outside. Yeah, people, I think, especially vegans, vegetarians who care about animals, they know that the animals that they see here are well taken care of, that they don't get slaughtered. So it is a bit of a haven, a bit of a sanctuary for people as well, not just for animals, I would say.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who are feeling really burnt out or really desperate about, the state of the world for animals, they seek a lot of comfort and get a lot of comfort by staying in an accommodation such as this. And just going back to what you were saying about using the funds for the accommodation to support the sanctuary, it's something that I'm noticing more and more sanctuaries doing, whether they be large sanctuaries or just very, very small ones, is offering some sort of accommodation there. We actually go and have lunch at one of these on our Tuscany trips, and it's an absolutely beautiful place. And, she has 3 little self-catering cottages there. But of course, people that stay there, whether they're vegan or not. They get to see the animals and ask lots of questions. And it's just a really lovely model. And I'm pleased it's being successful for you and for other sanctuaries as well.
You have to have the room for it, of course. Sometimes
Yes.
people can't do that, or you have to have the permit, or you have to have the money to put some infrastructure there. So not everybody is that lucky with it. And of course, it helps if you're in an area that is worth visiting as well. But if you can do it, I would recommend definitely to do something like that as an income model. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? If you're in a touristy area, chances are land and everything is more expensive.
Absolutely.
Oh, tricky situation. All right. So I'm curious about how visitors might actually get to your accommodation, because I know public transportation is amazing in Belgium. I'm wondering if you can give some information about that, please.
Yeah, if they come from outside the country, you take the plane to Brussels airport, and from there it would be 1 or 2 trains, like an hour, and there we can pick people up. Or if they come with a car, it's an hour from Brussels, from the airport, a good hour, I think. So yes, you have a rental. It's not in the middle of nowhere. I mean, in Belgian terms, it's a bit isolated, but I think if you come from America, it's nothing comparable to the flyover states or whatever.
How long do people usually stay when they come to visit you?
Mostly it's 2 or 3 days. So we have a minimum stay of 3 days. Some people stay longer. Most of the time it's 2 days.
What would be some really great day trips that people could do using Feathery Forest as a base?
Yeah, in the direct neighborhood, there's different trips in forests and nature walks that you can do. There's a couple of small towns in the direct environment where you can have vegan food, but the cities that I named before, so Bruges, Brussels, Antwerp, Ghent, you can visit all of these with our place as a home base. They would all be day trips from here. You could say that there's no place in Belgium that you couldn't get to with our place as a home base. The country's that small. So Brussels, Antwerp, there would be trips of an hour to get there, at least with a car, and an hour back. So that's entirely feasible to do from here. If you want to visit Belgium, it's a good place to be because it's quite central and it's at the same time peaceful.
Yeah. I love this idea of, spending a few nights in Belgium and using your place as a base rather than like a big sort of hotel brand in the middle of the city with loads of other tourists. I think this sounds like a really great idea for sure. And what about in the direct area of Feathery Forest? I'm imagining there must be some trails nearby and maybe, I don't know, some castles or some cute villages.
Yeah, like I said, there's a couple of villages that are close by that you can visit almost on foot. There's different hikes through different forests. Right now we have the forests that have these famous little blue, I don't know the name in English, but little blue flowers that come out in spring and they're only there for 2 weeks. They create this purple field. It's very beautiful. That's bluebells. They're blossoming right now. I think that one of the draws is also the fact that you can just stay inside this cabin and just enjoy being there with the animals and do nothing and just read a book. Because sometimes I think vacations can be stressful in the sense that like, oh my God, there's this and this and this to visit and to do. And you have a whole list and you get stressed about all these to-dos that you have on your vacation. I think here you can have the impression I can just be still and be quiet with my book and enjoy the time here. And even when the weather is bad, which happens in Belgium, being in that cabin with the rain on the roof, we have like a glass veranda, and the rain on that is really very cozy. I really like to be in there when it rains, actually. And the idea that you don't have to do anything, that you don't have to go anywhere, you can just stay there.
It just sounds like a real refuge, a place to de-stress and to recover and to just really relax. It sounds really lovely. I'm curious, do you have any future plans for Feathery Forest? For example, maybe add another cabin to the property or expand in some way?
We're quite limited with what we can do in terms of it's a forest and we cannot build any extra buildings there. So that's not going to happen. So in terms of like expansion plans, I don't think there's much. It's pretty well booked. There's also not that much room to grow in that direction. Over time, there might be maybe if we can, for instance, buy a piece of land like a meadow in the neighborhood. My girlfriend is interested in that to put more animals there. So that might be a possibility.
Incredible. Tobias, would you mind sharing with our listeners when the best times are to come to Belgium specifically, and maybe the best times to enjoy Feathery Forest? Maybe there's some cool festivals close by that might be interesting for travelers to check out.
Yeah, well, I think in terms of festivals, it will be summer, like in many other countries. In Ghent, which is 40 minutes from us, there's a world famous street festival, which takes 10 days. So it's the Ghent Festival. There's all kind of street art and music and concerts and food, and really draws a lot of visitors, millions of people. So that's one thing. In terms of staying with us, it's difficult. I would say, I mean, every season is beautiful. I think that my favorite days would be, but this is very rare when it snows. It's quite rare here. Like if you're in the cabin and you see the snow outside the forest, it's wonderful. But it's also wonderful in the fall, obviously, when the colors are beautiful. It's really great right now in spring when there's a lot of sun out because there's no leaves on the trees yet. So when it's a sunny day right now, it's really beautiful. It's really great also when it's really hot, then it's cooler in the cabin because of all the trees. We don't deal well with heat. So I'm very happy when we are here and I'm not traveling anywhere and I'm just home and it's hot everywhere else, but here it's really quite cool. There's a lot of good times to come actually.
So, Tobias, you've convinced me. I cannot wait to come and check out Feathery Forest for myself one day. It really does just seem like a really wonderful place to spend a few days. Tell our listeners, please, how might people book a spot, learn more, see some pictures about what it is that you've created here?
The website is featheryforest.be, and there you can book on the stay page and you can get more information there. We have an Instagram page, Feathery Forest, and also a Facebook page, Feathery Forest. You can also visit the website of our organization, proveg.com. And my personal activism page with a blog is veganstrategist.org. And my book is called How to Create a Vegan World.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Tobias, for taking the time to share with our listeners a little bit about this small corner of the world. I'm so grateful that you took the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much and good luck with your podcast.